before I be fake and be in the middle, I'd rather squash it like, bro, just squash it with him so I don't gotta say f him too, type shit. I got to say something. There's no way I can be cool with both of y'all like and just play the middle. I'm not
Here's that the rivalry between Sir 21 Savage and NBA Youngboy is becoming more intense than it has ever been. And their gangs are even getting ready to slay one another. The entire rap scene is on edge due to the feud between NBA Youngboy and 21 Savage. Gang, this isn't your typical industry drama. We are discussing a friendship so genuine that when devotion was put to the test, YB literally tattooed for L on his neck for 21 years before witnessing it all fall apart. And now things are actually becoming lethal. I'll explain it to you, buddy. Something lovely occurred in hip-hop between 2017 and 2018 when both NBA Youngboy and 21 Savage were ambitious young artists striving for success. These weren't phony links or industry plants. Between two cats who were aware of struggle, this was a true street bomb. From Baton Rouge, WB was already making headlines by releasing mixtapes as if his life depended on it. In the meantime, the streets were listening to 21 Savage's cold, calculated flow as he built his empire in Atlanta. However, it was more than just music that united these two. They both carried that real suffering. They met through mutual friends in the Atlanta scene, according to the streets in various accounts. However, this wasn't merely a casual kind of industry networking underscore. These guys were actually hanging out and creating true fraternity, both within and outside the studio. Respect was immediate and profound. Why be Saul and 21, a person who had effectively transitioned from the streets to the mainstream without losing his true self? Youngboy struck 21 as a kindred soul, someone who knew the burden of representing the streets while navigating the music business. This is the part of the story where things go really weird, and even their closest friends were astonished by some underscore. NBA Youngboy made a choice that would come back to haunt him. On his neck, he had a 4L tattoo. For those who are unaware, 4L stands for life and is closely related to 21 Savage's movement and brand. Allow me to explain why this was so significant. Not a cap! Hip-hop culture views getting someone else's insignia permanently inked on your body as the pinnacle of loyalty and respect. This isn't like screaming someone out in a song or wearing their merchandise. In a nutshell, this is permanent. It means I'm willing to carry your name on my body for the rest of my life. YB was demonstrating to the whole hip-hop community that 21 Savage was more than just a friend and collaborator when he got the 4L tattoo. He belonged to the family. In street culture, the type of gang loyalty is precious. It serves as the cornerstone upon which everything else is constructed. However, the tattoo was only the start. How at ease they grew in each other's territory was what truly demonstrated the depth of their friendship. We are discussing two artists from entirely different cities, Baton Rouge and Atlanta, who were prepared to drive up to each other's neighborhoods without any kind of protection, guns, or fear. Yeah, he wrote me on Instagram. YB said while discussing this connection. I caught up to him. There was a chop on me. I caught up to him. I got out of the Sprinter van. Hey, put that up, he said. That is not necessary in this area. But I tamper with Savage, dude. I believe he was the second person to ever let me to pull up on him. This quote is really quite illuminating. In essence, Y is stating that 21 Savage was one of the few individuals who gave him the confidence to put his gun aside. That is the pinnacle of trust in street culture. Someone is assuming responsibility for your safety when they say, you don't need that around here. I got you, they are saying. While YB and 21 were developing their fraternity, a different bond was emerging that would ultimately cause them to separate ways. Lil, the Chicago-based head of Only the Family, and 21 Savage were also growing close. There were several reasons why 21 and Durk were related. They were both street-certified performers who had made the move to mainstream fame without compromising their individuality. Due to his age and experience in the field, Durk served as a kind of mentor to 21. He taught him how to stay credible on the street while navigating the business side of hip-hop. However, this is where things become difficult, and this is a true example of industry politics underscore. Naturally, 21 grew closer to the entire F as his friendship with Durk grew. family, including King Von, one of Chicago's most talented young rappers, and Dirk's pupil. 21 was able to keep up friendships with the F Crew and NBA Youngboy for a time. However, it can be risky to retain numerous allegiances in hip-hop, particularly in street-oriented hip-hop. The culture expects authenticity, which frequently necessitates taking sides in disputes. On November 6, 2020, the night King Von was murdered outside Atlanta's Monaco Hookah Lounge, everything was irrevocably altered. This was more than just a terrible death toll. It was the incident that would compel 21 Savage to make an unfeasible decision. Though the specifics of what transpired that evening are still up for debate, but here are the things we know for sure. When King Von and his group met Quando Rondo and his group outside the Hookah Lounge, they were in Atlanta. When the smoke cleared, King Von was mortally injured after what had begun as a confrontation swiftly turned violent. This is where things become difficult and why it had a direct effect on YB's connection with 21 Savage. One of NBA Youngboy's closest friends and frequent collaborators, Quando Rondo, was there throughout the confrontation. Many members of the F camp started blaming Quando Rondo and consequently NBA Youngboy when King Van passed away. This was the point at which YB and Lil Durk's feud began to intensify. The reasoning was straightforward but disastrous. You are a part of a conflict if you are close to someone who is participating in it. Neutrality is frequently viewed as treachery in street culture, where devotion is paramount. 21 Savage was placed in an impossible situation as a result of this catastrophe. On the one hand, the 4L tattoo on NBA Youngboy's neck represented his sincere relationship with YB. Conversely, he shared a brotherhood with Lil Durk and the FF family, who were mourning King Von's passing and seeking assistance from their allies. 21 Savage gave an explanation of his allegiance theory, and this quotation is essential to comprehending his choice. I'm going to be like, man, just naturally me. If you have an issue with him and I mess with both of you, but I mess with him a little harder, I would want to squash it like, bruh, just squash it with him so I don't have to say messed him too, rather than pretending to be in the middle. I can't possibly play the middle and be nice with both of you. This remark sums up 21's predicament perfectly. Since he is not a neutral person, he was unable to remain impartial. His allegiance is unwavering, and when he had to pick a side, he went with the one he felt most connected to at the time. A number of variables affected 21's schools to support F instead of NBA Youngboy. First, both his personal and professional lives were becoming more and more dependent on his relationship with Lil Durk. Durk was a mentor and business associate in addition to a buddy. Second, neutrality was impossible due to the nature of the struggle. 21 would have been perceived as insulting Van's memory and deserting his F family throughout their grieving process if he had continued to be friends with YB. The decision to go with meant that 21 Savage had to cut connections with NBA Youngboy totally. Their friendship did not gradually deteriorate. It was a complete and instant separation. Once a representation of unbreakability, the 4L tattoo on YB's neck brotherhood turned into an agonizing reminder of lost loyalty. NBA Youngboy was devastated by 21's choice. He had put enough faith in 21 to have his emblem permanently marked on his body. But now that same person was prioritizing his enemies over their friendship. Because the betrayal was so total and unexpected, it was deeply painful. A lot of people not going to mess with NBA Youngboy because they mess with Lil Durk, 21 Savage clarified in interviews. This was more than an observation. It was 21 outlining his own stance and defending his decision. However, YB was not going to ignore this. Among the most dramatic clubhouse session that has become legendary in hip-hop circles was one of the points in their public feud. NBA Youngboy allegedly entered a clubhouse area where 21 Savage was already there and started making fun of him. Witnesses claim that Y confronted 21 directly about their strained connection and the decisions he had made. However, the specifics of what was said are up for debate. Since the two had not spoken to each other personally since their falling out, this Clubhouse episode was noteworthy. It wasn't through social media posts, subliminal lyrics, or middlemen. A live audience witnessed the immediate, in-the-moment altercation. Videos and accounts of the incident rapidly went popular on social media. Everyone could see that there was no longer any chance of reconciliation. It's interesting to note that 21 Savage subsequently disclosed that he had attempted to mediate a settlement between the opposing groups. I had conversations with YB, And I did have conversations with Dirk people, but it ain't worked, he revealed in a recent interview. But I didn't try. God damn it. 21 clarified that because Dirk was incarcerated at the time, he was unable to speak with Lil Durk directly. He thus spoke with F members and Dirk's people. Additionally, Hay held direct talks with NBA Youngboy, requesting that he put an end to the conflict for the benefit of hip-hop and to stop more violence. However, YB would not have it. He would not have it. He increased the contempt instead of accepting the peace offering. I hate. Youngboy King Von's disc music was performed by Lil Tim on stage by Y during his tour. Given that Lil Tim was purportedly involved in the incident that resulted in Van's death, this was viewed as the height of disrespect. 21 Savage's reaction to this was instructive. Look, Lil Tim and Underscore may still be at odds, but you and Dirk need to put an end to that because you have a lot of supporters using this deaths, murders, and incarceration a possible outcome. Work like Y and Dirt, but Dirt is unable to speak at all since he locked up. However, I did had conversations with Dirt folks as well as with YB. Yes. Into Underscore, however, it hasn't worked. But I didn't try. God damn it! Do you understand what I'm saying? His forecast turned out to be accurate. In the present day, Dirk is imprisoned on federal charges that are purportedly connected to his desire for vengeance. Lil Tim is still homeless, and Wando Rondo is being prosecuted at the federal level. The violence that 21 attempted to stop has already wrecked numerous careers and claimed numerous lives. 21 Savage has been transparent about the reasons for his decision, and it all boils down to his allegiance philosophy. According to an industry expert, loyalty is 21 Savage's weakness. It's both the finest and the worst thing because when he's with you, he won't bother you. He is so devoted to you that he would decline $1 million to avoid upsetting you. 21's greatest asset and greatest flaw is his unfailing commitment. 21 felt he had to decide between his devotion to YB and his friendship with him when King Von passed away. He made the decision because, as he put it, he tinkered with them a bit more. 21 described his street philosophy as well. If you truly cause trouble for a man, now, you guys just sing songs here and there. If you just play around with a guy's music, excellent. However, your brother says, I rock with this dude. If you're kicking it like a dude, therefore, I think you should choose it in such a circumstance. This situation is especially risky since it involves more than simply wounded egos and broken feelings. Real lives have been lost, real blood has been spilt, and genuine federal cases are being developed. Numerous people have already died as a result of the conflict between Y and Dirk, and 21 Savage's involvement has made things even more complicated. Everyone is aware that this kind of fight doesn't simply go, and the streets are keeping an eye on it. Every action is amplified. When you have musicians with this much power and devoted fan base, every slight has the potential to spark violence. In the end, the tale of NBA Youngboy and 21 Savage is a tragedy about devotion, treachery, and the difficult decisions that street culture occasionally requires. What began as true brotherhood so genuine that Y permanently scarred his body with a number, 21 has turned into ATHAT, poses a threat to additional lives. YB will always have the 4L tattoo on his neck as a constant reminder of friendship shattered and trust abused. It serves as a metaphor for how easily allegiance can become a weapon and how hip-hop culture's core principles can ultimately lead to its demise. One thing is evident as this situation keeps getting worse. These former friends' animosity has progressed much beyond personal grievances. It is now a part of a bigger conflict that has already taken far too many lives and doesn't appear to be coming to an end anytime soon. Whether this meat will become lethal is no longer the question. It's already had. How many more lives must be lost before this cycle of violence and treachery is broken? Gang, that's the truth. A bond that appeared to be unbreakable was shattered by the same loyalty that gave rise to it. We're all waiting to see how lethal this situation gets. Family, be careful out there. The repercussions of this type underscore are irreversible.
The longer the silence stretched, the more the story transformed into a mirror. Viewers projected their own beliefs about truth, loyalty, and responsibility onto the situation. What they saw depended on what they valued. Those who prioritized Emotional expression leaned toward Tamar. Those who valued consistency leaned toward Funky. Those who valued discretion gravitated toward Yandi. The story became less about events and more about values. At this stage, the discourse reached a point of saturation. No new information emerged, yet engagement remained high. Fans are shocked at how a lack of updates did not diminish interest. Instead, it intensified it. Every absence was interpreted, every delay analyzed. The story no longer needed developments to survive. If it fed on anticipation, by now, the unresolved nature of the situation felt intentional to many viewers. Even if it was not, ambiguity began to look like a strategy rather than a byproduct. Emotions ran high as people debated whether that perception was fair, but fairness mattered less than momentum. Once the idea of narrative control entered the conversation, it refused. To leave, the family was left divided in a deeper sense. Not just between supporters of different individuals, but between competing interpretations of silence itself. Is it protection, manipulation, or simply exhaustion? The story offered no answers, only reflections. And as long as those reflections remained unchallenged by clarity, the audience continued filling the gaps, shaping a narrative that no longer belonged to any single voice, but to the collective unease left behind by words spoken, words withheld, and truths that remained just out of reach by the time the discussion reached its most intense phase. Fatigue mixed with fascination. Viewers were no longer refreshing feeds for new clips. They were rereading old ones, dissecting tone, posture, timing. Fans are shocked at how deeply invested they became in something built almost entirely on interpretation. This was no longer about what anyone proved, it was about what felt believable in the absence of certainty. Online conversations took on a quieter but sharper edge. Instead of loud accusations, there were long threads analyzing motive. Emotions ran high as people questioned why certain details were emphasized while others were brushed past. Some argued that storytelling itself can be a form of defense, shaping perception without adding facts. Others countered that expecting perfect clarity from human experiences ignores how memory and emotion work. The tension between those ideas kept the narrative alive. Funky's position remained unchanged. He did not expand his statements or retreat from them. That steadiness continued to influence perception. Fans are shocked at how repetition without escalation can feel authoritative. His refusal to dramatize further became part of his credibility in the eyes of many. Critics, however, suggested that calm delivery does not equal completeness. Both readings existed side by side, each reinforcing its own logic. Tamer's supporters rallied in a different way. They focused on empathy rather than sequence. They highlighted how public pressure can silence rather than empower. Emotions ran high as they argued that demanding explanations from someone processing personal turmoil crosses a line. To them, Funky's breakdown felt clinical, while Tamer's perspective felt human. This emotional divide ensured that consensus remained impossible. Yan. Silence continued to dominate speculation. The longer it lasted, the more symbolic it became. Fans are shocked at how absence turned into narrative fuel. Some believed she was protecting her peace. Others suggested she was avoiding becoming collateral damage. A few argued that staying quiet was the most responsible choice in a situation where commentary could inflame tensions. None of these interpretations were confirmed, yet each gained. Believers. As creators and commentators weighed in, many began emphasizing the word reportedly. This linguistic shift reflected awareness that nothing had been verified. Still, the emotional pull did not weaken. The family was left divided as viewers chose which interpretation aligned with their values. For some, truth mattered most. For others, dignity. For others still, transparency outweighed all else. The conversation eventually widened beyond the individuals involved. It became a commentary on how narratives form in the digital age. Emotions ran high as people recognized themselves in the process, how quickly they judge, how easily they fill gaps. How silence can feel accusatory even when it is self-protective. Fans are shocked not just by the story, but by their own reactions to it. Some voices began urging restraint more forcefully. They reminded audiences that commentary does not equal confirmation, that circulating reports are not established facts. That speculation, once amplified, can cause real harm. While these reminders were shared widely, they struggled against the momentum of intrigue. Curiosity proved stronger than caution. Eventually, engagement slowed, not because answers arrived, but because saturation set in. The narrative had reached its emotional peak. Fans are shocked at how unresolved endings can linger longer than clear conclusions. The lack of closure left space for ongoing debate, but also for exhaustion. People moved on, yet the questions stayed behind, unanswered and unresolved. What remained was not a verdict, but a landscape of perspectives. Funky as the calm narrator, Tamar as the emotional truth-teller, Yandi as the silent figure whose absence spoke louder than words. Were proven right or wrong. They simply occupied different roles in a story shaped by reaction rather than resolution. The family was left divided not only publicly, but symbolically. This divide mirrored the audience itself. Each side convinced of its interpretation, yet aware that certainty was unattainable. Emotions ran high because ambiguity resists closure. It demands tolerance for discomfort, something the internet rarely rewards. In the end, the story settled into something quieter but heavier. Not a scandal, confirmed, but a moment that revealed how quickly commentary can become conviction. Fans are shocked at how easily lines blur between reporting and believing. The situation stood as a reminder that silence is not empty. Words are not always complete. And narratives often say more about the audience than the people at their center. And so the conversation did not end with answers. It ended with awareness. Awareness of how stories grow without proof. Awareness of how loyalty shapes belief. Awareness of how quickly empathy and skepticism can clash. Nothing was confirmed, nothing was resolved. Yet the impact lingered, proving that in the age of viral commentary, even uncertainty can feel powerful enough to divide, engage, and endure. Now that you have heard how these reports have unfolded, the biggest question remains unanswered. What do you believe is really happening behind the scenes? Fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and the family was left divided. But none of this comes with confirmation, only commentary and circulating narratives. And that is exactly where your voice matters most. You have seen how silence can feel louder than words, how calm delivery can feel convincing, and how emotional storytelling can feel authentic. But which perspective resonates with you? Do you believe Funky's breakdown changed how this story should be viewed? Or do you feel Tamer's experience deserves more grace and less scrutiny? And what about Yandi's quiet stance? Is it strength, strategy, or simply choosing peace over public chaos? This is the kind of story that does not end cleanly. It lingers because it reflects how quickly opinions form online and how powerful speculation can become. That is why we want to hear directly from you. Scroll down and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us which part of this situation stood out to you the most and why. Respectful debate is always welcome here. If you found this breakdown engaging and want more deep dives into trending celebrity commentary and viral entertainment stories, make sure you like this video. Helps the channel reach more viewers who enjoy thoughtful yet dramatic discussions like this one. And if you are not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss when a new story starts shaking the internet. Remember, this channel focuses on commentary, not confirmation. We break down what is being reported, how it is being perceived, and why it is causing so much reaction. Stay curious, stay aware, and keep questioning the narratives you see online. Until next time, keep the conversation going, and we will see you in the comments.